Well, this is Pete Farnsworth and Kai Michaelson here. We're standing next to a pretty historic piece of equipment, the X-1. This was the first hydrogen peroxide rocket-powered car, and Pete built this. Tell us a little bit about how we got into building this in the first place and why that you built this vehicle.
Well, about 1963, I was wearing myself out maintaining a top fuel car and working full time. And I decided that the jet cars were making some money and maybe I should build an exhibition car. And so I checked with my brother about rocket motors. He's a rocket engineer for McDonnell Douglas, and he had access to lots of different files on rocket motors. And we didn't find anything where the fuels were compatible with crowds at a drag strip and around the pit area.
Any hypergolic fuels?
Yeah, everything was, you know, it would either explode or the fumes would kill you, or so I was kind of stumped on that part of it. I knew what I wanted to build as far as a car, but then in '64 I was drag racing a top gas dragster down at Oswego, Illinois. It was called the Top 20 meet, where they sent everybody to the West Coast, and the proceeds from the meet helped people along to make their trip. And Dick Keller walked up in the pits and said, "You remember me?" And I said, "Well, I remember seeing you at Chuck Zuba's shop one time." And he said, "Well, what are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I'm doing the gas dragster right now, but I'm working on a rocket car." And he lit up. He says he and his friend had just built a 25-pound thrust hydrogen peroxide rocket motor and tested it. And he explained that it was completely throttleable and reasonably safe around people. And my eyes lit up then.
Yeah, for sure.
Wow, this sounds like just what I'm looking for. And I said, would it be scalable to 2,500 pounds of thrust? And he said, well, he'd have to check with his partner, but he thought it probably would be. I said, well, let's meet after this meet, and so we did. Later that fall, went down to Chicago where the Ray Dousman and Dick were both housed at that time, and we worked out a partnership on building the car. It was DFK Enterprises, is what we called it. And then we decided we'd better incorporate it if we ever run it and happen to have an accident or something. We don't want to be personally liable.
Yeah.
So we incorporated it as Reaction Dynamics Incorporated. And so that's where it started.
Yeah, and made a number of runs. Any idea how many runs you made with this vehicle?
I don't know, 30, 40 maybe.
Okay.
I don't know.
This was the prelude to the Blue Flame then.
Yeah.
Later on, the Blue Flame came in.
This was the prototype of the Blue Flame, and got us used to using the fuels, and then we graduated from this to the land speed record car, which was liquefied natural gas and hydrogen peroxide, a bipropellant engine. And so we sold this in we set a world quarter mile record with this in September of '68.
Mm-hmm.
It went 590 ET and 595 ET at 263 and 265 in Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
And that was the last time we ran this car. And from that, the gas industry decided that maybe we knew what we were doing, and gave us some preliminary okays to go ahead and design a Blue Flame land speed record car, which was successful.
Well, there's a lot of history. I've had a few rides in it.
Yeah.
And,
I never have.
oh, really? You didn't have the joy of that, huh?
First car I ever built that I didn't drive, so.
Well, it's much easier to drive than a top fuel car, I'll tell you that right now. It's a piece of cake to that.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so I got a few rides in it, and this was, from this, it spun off into the pollution packer, and getting licensed with NHRA. And from then, many other rocket cars were built. I had my fingers in many of them. And this was the whole start of it. And these rocket cars set many, many records throughout the country over the years. And the Blue Flame, it went on to set the world land speed record.
Yep.
And it wasn't a piece of cake, I'm sure of that. You had to work like crazy to do it.
Yeah, it was an 18-month build project and 2 years overall. And we achieved the mile and kilo records in 1970, October 23rd, 1970. And kilo record was 630.388, and the mile was 622.407. And we centered the firing point of the Blue Flame so that we would achieve peak speed in the kilo. And so we went 617 in the mile one direction, 627 the other way, and averaged 622. And the kilo, we went 631 and 629.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was pretty darn close for a rocket car.
And that record stood for how many years?
27 years, till 1997.
That alone was a record.
Yeah. Well, at that time it was.
Yeah.
Now, the current record is longer than that even. So.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you did an excellent job on this car here, and I've seen your work in the past, and there's a lot of history here.
Well, Barry Miner did most of the work on this, and it was painted by Butch Brenza, who painted the Blue Flame.
Yeah.
And he's world famous for car painting.
Well, thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And it means a lot to my son and I, and Kurt's come up here and actually stand by this another time and see it. There's so much history and a lot of meanings to me that I had a heck of an experience with
Well,
this
we
vehicle.
hope to make it totally operational fairly soon, and with Kurt's help with hydrogen peroxide, we hope to get it operational, and then it's going to go in the museum.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you very much.
So where is the Ford Museum?
Greenfield Village, outside of Detroit,
Okay.
where the goldenrod is, and Tom Beatty's belly tank.